A critical voting rights case is back in the spotlight at the U.S. Supreme Court, and the outcome could have far-reaching implications for American democracy. The fate of the Federal Voting Rights Act hangs in the balance, and with it, the potential for a dramatic shift in political power. The case, known as Louisiana versus Callais, could open the door for Republicans to gain significant ground in Congress. According to a recent report by voting rights advocates, if the Supreme Court overturns Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, which prohibits racial discrimination in voting, GOP-controlled states could redraw maps to favor Republicans in at least 19 additional House districts. And the timing of the court's decision could mean some of these changes take effect before the 2026 midterm elections. This is particularly relevant as President Trump and the GOP pushed the new maps in key states like Texas, Missouri, and North Carolina, aiming to preserve their slim House majority. A Supreme Court ruling that eliminates Section 2's protections against the dilution of racial minority voters' power could be a significant boost to their efforts. But here's where it gets controversial. Many supporters of the Voting Rights Act fear the conservative majority court may rule against Section 2. The court's decision not to rule on the Louisiana case last term and instead schedule a second round of oral arguments focused on the constitutionality of Section 2's redistricting requirements is a cause for concern. If Section 2 is gutted, it could have a ripple effect, especially in southern states where voting is racially polarized. In these states, if mapmakers are no longer required to create districts where racial minorities have a realistic chance of electing their preferred candidates, the political landscape could shift dramatically. The report suggests that states like Louisiana, Florida, Georgia, and Texas could see fewer Democratic representatives, and states like Alabama, Mississippi, and South Carolina could lose all of theirs. This could result in the loss of up to 30% of the Congressional Black Caucus and 11% of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. Cliff Albright, co-founder of the Black Voters Matter Fund, warns that this could lead to one-party control of the House for generations. What happens in the South doesn't stay in the South, Albright emphasizes. This racial gerrymandering has the potential to disempower and disenfranchise Black and Latino voters, and its impact will be felt nationwide. The Louisiana case revolves around a lower court's order for the state's Republican-controlled legislature to redraw its congressional map after a group of Black voters sued under Section 2. Alana Odoms, executive director of the American Civil Liberties Union of Louisiana, explains that Section 2 ensures communities of color can participate equally in the voting process and elect representatives who reflect their interests. Equal participation and opportunity are fundamental to our democracy, she says. However, a group of self-described non-African American voters, led by Philip Callais, argue that the race-based redistricting ordered by the court is unconstitutional. They believe the Supreme Court's 2023 ruling against race-based affirmative action at colleges should also apply to political map-making under Section 2. In seeking a rehearing, the Supreme Court asked parties to consider whether the state's creation of a second majority-minority district violates the U.S. Constitution. Republican state officials in Louisiana now argue against using race in redistricting, and the Trump administration's Justice Department agrees that Section 2's protections are no longer constitutional, a significant shift from past positions. Atiba Ellis, a law professor at Case Western Reserve University, suggests that the court could reaffirm the Voting Rights Act as it did in 2023, but many are concerned about the court's increasing skepticism towards race-conscious remedies. Ellis warns that a decision against Section 2 could be a tipping point, heavily restricting Congress's ability to promote multiracial democracy. With state deadlines for new congressional maps approaching, the timing of the Supreme Court's decision is crucial. Louisiana's top election official, Nancy Landry, has asked the court to rule by early January 2026 to avoid disrupting the state's schedule. However, the court typically releases major decisions towards the end of its term in June, leaving the timing uncertain. The court has confirmed it will discuss a North Dakota case next month, which questions whether private individuals and groups can continue to enforce Section 2 through lawsuits. This issue has also been raised by Republican officials in Mississippi in another redistricting case on direct appeal to the Supreme Court. The potential consequences of the Supreme Court's decision are immense, and the outcome could shape American politics for years to come. As we await the court's ruling, the question remains, will the Voting Rights Act withstand this challenge, or will we see a dramatic shift in political power?